Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast. I'm Ponomarov, head of Money Movement Solutions at Visa, Central Europe, Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And today we are going to explore the world of cross-border payments. Cross-border payments are essential for individuals, for small, medium businesses, and for corporates. And it is especially relevant to the UAE, where we have large population of expats, booming industry of SMBs, and some of the world's largest corporations. This brings us to the conversation with AlfaNow, which is a cross-border payment solution arm for Fardan Group globally. Through AlfaNow, Group is planning to expand their business globally and to provide cross-border payment solutions to consumers and business. And with that, let me welcome Hasan Jaber, AlfaNow CEO, and with Hasan we will be discussing today key trends, emerging opportunities, and future innovations in the industry of cross-border payments. Welcome, Hasan.
Thank you, Ivan.
Let me ask my first question about AlfaNow journey. Could you please share a bit more flavors with the audience and provide a brief introduction of AlfaNow as a company, products, services, your vision, and the way you are going to disrupt this industry?
AlfaNow is really a byproduct and a baby that was born from Fardan Group. And as you know, Fardan Exchange has been in the markets in the UAE for quite some time now, registered as the first exchange house. Now, during this time and everything that we have inherited from network to the know-how and what we have built on since the last 1 or 2 decades, is something that was exceptionally amazing, but it was always limited to what we can do and what we cannot do given the licensing that we have in the UAE as a market. And you know, UAE is the biggest market globally. AlfaNow will give us the opportunity to actually go global, be able to do what we are doing here, but on a global presence, and not just be limited to remittance, but also explore other payment solutions and other payments ecosystem, be part of a more integrated offering that the world has to offer for the consumers and corporates, like you said.
Thank you, Hasan. And next question would be, given the all experience of Fardan Exchange and the way you power AlfaNow with all this expertise, what are the key trends in the UAE you see that may be repeated in other countries, and the way you can monetize the success of Fardan story with AlfaNow?
Look, that's a good question, but I'd like to think of the financial ecosystem as a very integrated one globally. The only difference I see anyway is the regulatory framework. But consumer behaviors, the channels, the expectations, the speed, I think it's pretty much the same. I think, the world has become a very small village, and this is something that we really feel it in especially when it comes to the payment world. It's becoming more demanding. Hence why, when it comes to understanding the customer's behavior, I would like to think that it is a standard customer behavior, and it can only get better from where we are globally. But regulations might vary. Now, what better can we do? I think there are a number of things that still haven't been, hasn't been tackled. I don't think it has been properly looked after in terms of the challenges that are there in the payments globally. I can think of transparency. I can think of costing. I can think of the speed at which the transactions are happening, and also I don't think not a lot of us are speaking the customer's language. We tend to get really emotional and attached to our business language, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything to a consumer who doesn't know anything about banking, right? So with all the global ecosystem and the options that have become available to us, open banking, to the integrated ecosystem globally, and Visa has got a lot to say on their integration and on their enablement of many players, especially with their latest acquisition of Currency Cloud. Things like that are meant to also bridge a lot of challenges that one could have to go and have a say on a global market. So I think what we meant to do here is really help the customers. It really all started from why and why not. That's how I think, and that's how I believed, and I think to be able to answer these questions is the product. That's that's then is the aftermath of all these questions is the product. So I believe that there's a lot to be done on in that front, and we're very determined to achieve these.
Thank you for sharing this, Hasan. I have another question from the cash digitization point of view, because you know that Visa historically was working on digitization cash in purchase world, like your swipe card, your tap card, domestic and cross-border. But in remittances business, for example, cash may still prevail in some of the countries. And then what's your view? How do you envision cash digitization in remittance world?
Interesting, because while we see there's growth in the cash business, despite all the efforts to have digital experience, we still see that there's quite challenging, and that's purely because you'd need two spectrums, you need two ends of the spectrums actually to speak to each other for you to have a full digital experience. Now we can say anything about sending markets, whether it is the GCC or let's say America or the Europe, bigger markets in SEPA or whatnot. But then, is it necessarily the same at the receiving end? Because now, we spoke about the highest sending markets, but what about the receiving markets? Now, the receiving markets are not necessarily all digital. So then, how are we able to link that? That's the question. I believe that there are a lot of efforts now to digitize the experience. I don't think that we are yet completed in that cycle. But in terms of having to capitalize on the gap that is there today, I think there's a opportunity for all of us here to actually provide what the market is requiring, what the consumer is expecting. Because look, again, it's an ecosystem, Ivan. You can always receive your payments in a wallet or in your bank account or even a digital account. But then, is your merchant ready to actually accept transactions digitally as well? Or do you have to, again, go to an ATM and withdraw that cash? So, look, we're not too far from this. And I think the IMF data is quite clear that half of the, speaking about the UAE, at least as a market, 50% of the remittances are meant to grow digitally as well. So I think the customer behavior is changing, but then we need to look at it holistically, and we need to also believe that it's a 360 degree and it's an ecosystem that has to actually mesh together for us to have a full integrated digital experience.
Thank you, Hasan. And I would say that some of the countries have made significant progress with digitization of cash across any vertical. So one of the countries actually moved from 60% transaction being in digital to 95%. So basically cash was completely eliminated just in 3-4 years. And I'm talking about emerging countries. So it does resonate a lot what you have just said. With regards to challenges, you mentioned regulatory requirement, and then you mentioned transparency, cost, and some other challenges. From your perspective, here in the UAE, in GCC, where we have two largest sending markets globally, what are the biggest challenges for consumers and businesses to send money abroad?
In terms of the challenges, I believe that transparency, availability of the payment itself, cost, I must say, in some areas, and then obviously due to the regulatory requirements, it can also affect both things that I've mentioned just now, which is the cost and the speed of a transaction. I think these are the main things that I can think of now. But then, is it really simple? Today, when I'm looking at if we had to go back in time and see how has this evolved really, and since we spoke about evolvement and natural development of an ecosystem, I mean, we still remember when we had to sign on checks, demand drafts for remittances, and then to test keys and whatnot, and then we moved to SWIFT and things like that. But then in the last decade or so, then we had a more integrated solution. We have the Visa Direct, for example, is an example of that intro. Having more visibility, speed, and whatnot. But then, are we able to cover everything in that? But then just now we can see that this, for example, this year and going forward, you're going to hear a lot about crypto. You're going to hear a lot about stable coins and whatnot. So yes, we can see that the evolution is happening, but then it's all bound within the jurisdictional requirements from a regulatory point of view. Are there efforts to bring changes to that? Absolutely, yes. We can, for example, in the UAE, we can see that the regulator was able to put a lot of effort that we can notice in having a more real-time payments, such as ANI, the latest that we've heard of. Not only the UAE, but then you're looking at Buna, for example, as another bigger integrated solution for more countries. I think with the stable coins, the CBDCs and whatnot. So your son and my son won't anymore need to worry about waiting days and whatnot to get an advice over the payment. So, and naturally it should be so. Now, obviously, no banker wouldn't know that settlements and funding is another issue, isn't it? I mean, so from back end, the cost of transaction is going to be a bit tricky to be able to actually control it, because while we're talking about speed is also expensive. I mean, you cannot have speed, quality, and cost at the same time. You'll have to drop one. Now, if you were able to actually find your sweet spot there and be able to work on these three elements, then you've got something to talk about. And this is where AlfaNow is coming in to actually put in a solution where we can actually enjoy these three pillars together without having to compromise or jeopardize any of these features.
That sounds really impressive. Thank you for that. If I focus on one particular aspect you may have mentioned about RTP, about real-time payments, we start seeing more and more regional initiatives like Buna. Then we start seeing evolving demand from both individuals, SMBs, and sometimes corporates to make payments instantly, because especially consumers and SMBs, they started using this at domestic level. They started using instant payments, and they're accustomed to this already. So basically they expect this instant money movement now across the borders as well. What's your view on instant payments in cross-border?
Look, I think if we had to dissect the entire process, you notice that there's always dependencies on, and less independency on others. So it really is an integrated solution, right? So while you can still control your interaction with your customer, your interface could be great, right? The funds in mechanism could be very, very simple, such as your Visa products. But then for you to process the payments, you'd have to talk to multiple other stakeholders in the process, from your receiving side, your FX, to all of that. And I don't want to get too technical here, but this is if you were able to actually find a solution to be able to have a control or a say over the entire ecosystem without having to worry about the cutoff times of this market or that market, then we have an opportunity. And I believe that gap is not a very difficult problem to solve. It's just that I don't think there has been enough efforts been put to actually be able to have a more linear or a binary relationship here. So I think it can only get better from here. Corporate is a bit more complicated because your onboarding process, your KYC, and the purposes and whatnot, especially that the volume of the transactions is always, the ticket value is always bigger than an individual. But even having said that, I think, are there solutions today to actually answer this question? Yes, there are. Have they been implemented? I don't think necessarily they have been used. Look, technology is available. I mean, we do have enough technology today, Ivan, for us to exactly, enjoy what you have just stated. Can we have it instantly? Yes, we can. Have we used it is the question. Have we actually been able to understand it, to be able to link it? And this is what AlfaNow is trying to do here. We don't want to build a cage and live in it. It's all technology based. I think if you really want to ask me, I think what we have here is we're a technology based company, and the product is payments, and it's not the other way around. If I'm able to embed that and be able to actually have the solution ready technically and be able to actually understand what technologies are available and be able to link them, then I think we have a product and we have a very unique proposition here. But then you need to be detailed and you need to understand and you need to be hands-on, and you cannot leave it to your CIO or the CTO to tell you if it's doable or not, because often it's not. Is it doable? Yes, it is. But is it easy? Nothing is easy. I mean, if it was easy, others would have done it. So I think that technologies are there. There's enough technology today for us to enjoy that instantaneous payment. I think regulators have actually come a very long way to have a digital ambitions and a digital adaptation. And in the UAE, no different than others. I think the Central Bank of the UAE has been very proactive, like I mentioned. Today, the blue collar segment is also enjoying banking services and non-banking services through a lot of financial inclusion initiatives. We will have a very special proposition. We will have a very fast and smart offering than what we used to have. And look, the expectations of the customer is also growing. So what used to happen and take place in a year or two now is expected to happen in a month or two, and going forward is going to be a week or two to less and less and less. And I think this is, I don't like to think of this as a challenge. I'd like to think of this as an opportunity. And I think we'd like to be one amongst the first to harvest that and actually understand the game. And we have a skin in the game here. And if I may say, I have a dog that's fighting in this fight, and I'd like it to win because we've been there, we've done that. It's about how are we able to do it more agile, less bureaucratic. I'd like to think, how can we actually integrate that and avail what we know here at a much bigger scale? So it really is an economy of scales here.
Sounds amazing. And, in actually just few questions, we came from cash digitization to instant cross-border payments, just in just a few paragraphs.
I think you had great questions to ask me, but
right here. So it is a good segue to my next question. AlfaNow is working on many things now. And from your perspective, what is the most excited few things you're doing in innovations and product development that will impact industry landscape within the next 2 to 3 years?
Good question. I think having a fast, resilient, secured, cost-effective offering, I think that's hygiene. That has to be your base, Ivan. That's nothing special anymore. It really is like your iPhone, to have it very nice, slick, fast, and all that. It's hygiene. You have to have that. So what's in it is what matters. So once you get that basic sorted, what is it that you're going to do to your customers? I think we need to speak the customer's language. I think the customers will have expectations over the availability of products, much easier than complicated. I mean, look, if you look at all the terms and the jargons of payments world, it's quite complicated. So we're trying to have a more front-ending product that is easy to use. What seems to be very calm and easy at the top, there's a lot of swimming under the water, like ducks do, right? You see them very, very quiet and nice, but then they're very efficient. So this is what we're trying to do. I mean, we are going to answer your question, what we're looking to do at the beginning is actually to get our payments rails right. Once we have that, and once we are able to do that, and that's not going to be limited to just the UAE, Ivan. So we're going out full on because the scale has to be there for us to be able to justify and be able to offer to our customers what they want to hear, what they want to receive from us. So payments and remittances is going to be the first thing. But then once that's sorted, I don't think we want to segregate between other offerings because, like I said, it is an ecosystem. And so your customers will always expect to have, their cards included. They want to pay their bills. They want to remit. They want to save. They want to pay their insurance. They want to pay for the school kids and whatnot. So it has to be an integrated. People call it super app. I think super app is an old term already. You know what I mean? So just really for a customer, that's what it is. But for us, I just talked about remittances. I talked about payments. I talked about C2B, B2C, whatnot. So they don't need to know all of that. It has to be very easy for them, and that's the expectation.
Thank you. And you mentioned C2B, B2C, B2B. It's almost part of my presentation typically, hence this few acronyms resonated a lot. Then switching gears to your partnership with Visa, and how is Visa supporting your global AlfaNow's digital journey and how your clients will benefit from it?
But the fact that we hear Ivan today just says that Visa was always ready. Visa has been always available, and Visa understood the game a long time ago. Look, if we had to go back to what I just said, I think Visa was the best translation and was able to convey the fact that payments is not limited to just one silo, and they have to work together. I mean, we know that Visa is essentially about cards, issuing cards, and then everything about the cards. But then moving money is part of the cards transaction, right? So why not? Is that right? So shifting money from one point to another, being able to find your pricing, your FX, your treasury, your settlement, all of that then becomes aftermath of that process. And I think Visa was able to get that right. The relationship that we've had with Visa for a long time has been absolutely an important one. We were able to understand what the market requires today. With Visa Direct specifically, I think that's a big offering in many markets that we are looking at today. And I think you were able to make a difference globally in that. So we'd like to actually capitalize on that presence that you have and be able to do more business.
Thank you very much, Hasan. We do appreciate your partnership as well. And with that, it's been a great pleasure having you on this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for more insightful discussions on the future of the payments.